day and welcome to the third episode of the Department of Infrastructure's Community Matters Show. Now, over 688,000 people are on the waiting list for government-subsidized housing, and many more are seeking affordable housing solutions. The bulk of the demand, though, is located in the city of Cape Town, with an estimated 350,000 applicants on the waiting list. While population growth rates have placed added pressure on human settlements, the Western Cape Department of Infrastructure, under the leadership of Minister Tertius Simmers, believes the effective way to narrow the backlog is by ramping up options that Western Cape residents can explore to secure government housing. While the housing crisis is as severe as anywhere in the country, the Western Cape Department of Infrastructure's budget for the 2025-2026 allocated 6.4 billion rand for human settlements, including informal settlement upgrades, accelerating housing deliveries, title deed restoration, and asset management. Now, through this budget, Minister Tertius Simmers is confident his department will be able to provide disadvantaged citizens with affordable housing models that will assist in providing stable homes while reducing the growing number of illegal informal settlements and, of course, homelessness. For this third episode of the Department of Infrastructure's Community Matters Show, the Minister is joining us, so please do drop us a text to engage the Minister and ask any questions, of course. We want you as the listener to drive these conversations as you usually do. Our WhatsApp number, of course, is 0829 913 913. I'll repeat that. It's 0829 913 913. And all of your questions will be answered in the next show, which is taking place, of course, on the 1st of July, 2025. You can also, of course, engage with the Minister through his social media platforms by finding the Minister on X using the handle at MIN or at min_T Simmers. That's SIMMERS, using the hashtag, of course, Community Matters. Minister, good day. Thank you so much for once again for your time.
Hi, good day, and thank you for the opportunity to once again engage our listeners and our viewers and our streamers, all it's simultaneously about the very insightful topic I believe we're going to be discussing today.
Yeah, we're going to jump straight into it, of course. I think the introduction touched on sort of where the conversation is going to be headed in this particular episode. Before we begin with specific questions on that particular topic, though, I think briefly start by providing us with your sort of your overview on the housing situation here in the Western Cape and how, in your view, the province is performing.
Well, to understand my answer to your question, we need to fully understand that there's a semi-migration into our province of 150,000 people every year. The bulk of these people come to our province for better quality of life, for a better opportunity for a job. And all of this does add to an ever-growing housing backlog because many of them fall outside of your traditional RDP or BNG housing projects and program. They focus more on affordable housing, affordable rental, and even social housing where it's needed. So in that context, given in terms of our growth annually, of people coming to our shores and to our province, I do believe that we are actually doing very, very well in terms of affordable housing in its true form. We have seen over the last 3 years an uptake, an increase in our outputs in terms of delivering affordable housing projects across our province, more so in the city of Cape Town. And this includes social housing projects which have gone live, which we've seen tenanting. We have seen affordable housing in terms of the First Home Finance program. In partnership with the private sector, I need to emphasize seeing a number of projects as well being successfully bonded, or where a successful beneficiary has opted to gain access to their pension fund to ultimately be being able to buy a house. We have seen a massive uptake and increase in this. But the true success of what I'm talking about is because we have been engaging communities, engaging the private sector partners who work with us and who ultimately have indicated that there needs to be an acceleration in terms of affordable housing. In terms of the BNG or the fully state subsidized housing program, and if I include and expand on that, the services sites program or the rapid land release program, given that we are dealing with extortion, given that we are confronted with a delay because of that, our ability to deliver on that part of our mandate is also doing very, very well. Given that we've also experienced not one or two, but three unilateral budget cuts in this regard. So taking all this into account, We are doing very, very well. But I also want to thank the listeners and the viewers and the streamers in this instance who have heeded our call. They've registered or updated their contact details on the housing demand database, because now we have a clearer picture actually of who qualifies for what segment of the housing programs which we have. Like I've indicated in the previous show, there are 17 programs. And finally, because of shows like this in our empowerment initiative, we are seeing the true scale and the need in each specific segment of the 17 housing programs, which falls under the umbrella of the Human Settlements Program of the Western Cape Government.
Yeah. And again, just a reminder to our listeners, viewers, and streamers to join us on the WhatsApp line on 0829 913 913. And if there's perhaps something that's itching that you want to get clarity on, pop us a message and we'll have the Minister respond to it. Now, Minister, on that particular topic then, speak to us about some of the housing opportunities and options for that the provincial government in particular offers to the people of the Western Cape.
Well, obviously, the bulk of the residents are well aware of the BNG program, so I won't touch on that. It targets 0 to 3,500 rand beneficiaries who qualify. I think that's a program which a lot of people fully understand, even though they misunderstand it as social housing, which it is not. So the other programs which we are successfully implementing in the city of Cape Town, and even the city through their various focus areas, focuses on similar programs, is social housing, which targets the beneficiary market between 1,850 to 22,000 rand. I need to re-emphasize this is a rental option only. And you will never become the owner of the unit that you gain access to. Then we have the first home finance, which our province is the best performing province in the country. Again, it focuses similar to the social housing up to 22,000. The difference here is that it's a bonded option. It's an ownership model where title deeds are at the end of your journey. We have included, unique to the Western Cape, what is called deferred ownership. We've piloted a program in Cape Agulhas, again, utilizing the criteria of first home finance. And we have seen it being very, very effective. And we are on track to announce some further new enhancements to our program in the Western Cape. But these are the main programs. But we've also seen, in terms of the non-finance linked individual subsidy program, again, it targets those earning between 0 and 3,500 rand, but it's not PNG. This is where a beneficiary is on the waiting list, is aware of somebody who wants to sell a house for which they have the title deed. But again, there's a criteria built into that where in the city of Cape Town, you have to be on the waiting list for a period of 10 years. The house that is on offer, so to speak, to you, which, and to need to emphasize, must have a deed or a title deed in the owner's name. It cannot exceed the BNG subsidy quantum. For that, as a province, we have seen a massive uptake in the city of Cape Town over the last 3 years. We have gone from 400 a year to almost 1,000 a year. And no, it's not an April Fool's joke, but we do open the system on the 1st of April. We've actually extended it beyond the end of April because of the massive need. Because of the uptake of this program. Again, very few people are aware of this program, which is why I'm re-emphasizing this program as well. But we've also seen individuals on the waiting list who wants just a service site. They want to build their own house. And they fully understand that if you give you that service site, if it's available in a number of our provincial projects across the city, that you get a title deed. That transfer will be as if though you have a full house, because we do use a subsidy to actually service your site. And we have seen slow but steady uptake in that program as well across the province, because many people are employed. Their employers want to assist them. So this is a great form. So these are the core programs we are focusing on, given that there's been a massive need for that. Obviously, if you live outside of the city of Cape Town, in your peri-urban to agricultural and rural nodes in our province, there is also where we assist through a mixture of these programs together with the agricultural sector, where we are in partnership with them. The house is beyond the subsidy quantum, but then the farm owner contributes in that regard. And we then also just use the maximum subsidy quantum, again, utilizing elements of each of these programs, but linking it and targeting specifically the agricultural sector. And Drakenstein is a very good example of such a program, which has been massively successful. And we seek to replicate it now across the province, our peri-urban to our more agricultural nodes across the province because of its success in Drakenstein.
Yeah. And with some of those examples that you've just touched on, then highlight for us some of the key projects that the department is involved with that sort of speak to the objectives of addressing the housing crisis in the province.
I mean, I have to just look at my notes here because I'm covering the entire Western Cape when I touch on this. In Mossel Bay, we have a project which is called the Mountain View Project. That is a 300 million rand project. It is a mixture of BNG, First Home Finance, or FLISP, it was formerly called. It has a footprint of social housing which has been approved and the construction is set to commence. And I think what makes this project unique is that the BNG beneficiaries all were previously backyarders. But the First Home Finance, which is what makes this project unique, but they earn above the 3,500 threshold, are also former backyarders. So we have addressed the backyarder component to this project. Then we have the Metro Grounds in George. Again, I visited phase 2 a few weeks ago. This is a project that speaks to various wards in George. Phase 1 focused on the elderly, those that live in informal settlements and those that live in backyards. So the first phase has been fully handed over. Phase 2 is progressing quite nicely. Here we are focusing on the backyarders, but also the last tranche of those that we could not assist in phase 1 coming from the informal settlement areas and that have been very long on the waiting list. Phase 3 will be focusing ultimately on the First Home Finance or the open market aspect in terms of that as well. Then we have Mole Park, which is our pilot project of deferred ownership. That is its market name, where we have taken our own provincial money to test a new concept where we build the house through a developer. You can then rent the house for a period. In this case, due to the impact of COVID-19, I extended the cycle to 3 years. But here we target a specific strata of the market, your nurses, your teachers, your policemen. And many of them have benefited. It's 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, up to 4-bedroom. And we have seen a phenomenal turnaround in terms of the tenanting. You go through a credit readiness program because the impact of COVID-19 on our people. I've seen people not being credit ready or credit worthy to go to the bank. And with the support of a number of banks, we have now seen a conversion of tenanting to ownership. Whereas much as the minister extended the tenanting cycle to 3 years, many of the people within 20 months. But what makes Mole Park unique is we take 50% of your rent as a deposit once you go to the purchase phase of the program.
Okay.
And we have seen people accessing the pension fund. FLISP, or First Home Finance, does afford you to buy cash now. So many of our successful tenants who are now proud homeowners went for that option. Banks do offer in that strata loans, unsecured loans. But again, being able to take 50% of your rent and putting it down as a deposit has a massive implication for them. If you are bonding, it lowers your bond.
Yeah.
If you take out a loan to pay or buy your house cash, that then gets transferred to the financial institution through which you get the funding, and it also lowers, I believe, your monthly loan repayment. But we also have in the West Coast, which is an area we seldomly talk of on the show, in the Berg River area, which is Piketberg, Veldrif, and those areas, we have at the moment 3 projects running simultaneously, addressing those that are backyarders, addressing those that have lived on farms almost their entire lives. But this is done through the BNG program, the first component, and to a lesser extent, those that want to, through the First Home Finance program, access the housing opportunity again. Many of these people lived on farms or are living on farms. And I've, again, handed over the first batch of these houses in all 3 sites. So it does speak through addressing the various needs of the various communities in the province. But in Cape Winelands, we have a number of catalytic projects. TransX, which is a big project. It will yield over 2,500 housing opportunities upon completion. We are set to complete in 2028. This is a project I started as the Minister of Human Settlements, and I'll be well on track as the Minister of Infrastructure when I finish the term of office. And we've completed nearly 190 which we've handed over, and construction of the balance of 1,400 of this phase is well on track. We have Dal Josaphat, which is also in Drakenstein, but what makes Dal Josaphat unique, it's 2,000 units. There's an open market component, there's a BNG component, there's a first home finance component, and there's a social housing component, and a mall has recently been opened in the last year in the same development. So it speaks to the need of all housing programs, but also linking it to economic opportunities, because the mall has created jobs for beneficiaries as well. And we are set to complete actually Dal Josaphat in its totality in February 2026. So far, I've handed over 472 units. So as you can hear, it's progressing quite well. And in Vlakkeland, again, Drakenstein has been blessed in the Cape Winelands because of the availability of land. Phase 1, actually 1,000 units have been completed. And to date, we have handed over 755 units. Again, this focused purely on BNG, but focusing on a specific beneficiary criteria. Backyarders, informal settlement residents, but also those who used to live on farms who were not aware that they could be on a housing waiting list. So we've now basically jogged through all of the housing programs, and there are massive success stories and life-changing stories because of this in these various areas.
One of the challenges, though, that I think we must acknowledge, and there have been calls to address, is the challenge of spatial planning within the Western Cape, and in particular certain municipalities like the city of Cape Town. What are you, as the Minister for the Department of Infrastructure, doing to deal with some of these challenges?
Well, indeed, my portfolio through the lens of human settlements effectively breaks down the apartheid spatial design. It takes time because there's planning. We focus on how we can optimally utilize the land at our disposal to yield the maximum outputs, but also integrate various residents who qualify. But I think unique as well is bringing different programs into this spatial design. First home finance, social housing, open market, and where it's possible, even BNG, dependent on the yield capacity of the piece of land. But I think what's also crucial here is that we work with our relevant local governments or municipalities. We work with the relevant national departments where they might own land, which we believe can increase our yield capacity. We act within SPLUMA, which is the legislation which guides us how we must optimally utilize land. Remembering, we can't just build our way out of addressing the past. We must also ensure that we cater still for environmental aspects. We must cater for schools, clinics, and so forth in our developments as well. And in this regard, a true form of addressing the spatial injustice is inner city developments. And the Premier and I, a bit more than 2 months ago, launched the Leeuwloop Inner City Development. You and I spoke of this in the previous program. It's a game changer for the inner city, focusing on open market and social housing, because the bulk of the people that work in the inner city can't afford to live in the inner city. And Leeuwloop is a game changer such as that. We will be announcing, in terms of the Artscape and the Presswitch project in due course, again, inner city, life-changing. These 3 projects together will yield over 3,500 inner city housing opportunities, which has never been done in the city of Cape Town. It has never been done by any province at this scale. And what's importantly is our partnership with the private sector. So we are sweating our assets, so to speak, as a provincial government, doing it through partnership with the private sector, but again, bringing in various housing programs, which ultimately seeks to break down the barriers of spatial injustice, but also to ensure its sustainable development, because we want to create sustainable projects and sustainable new communities through the various human settlements programs.
To tackle the housing crisis, right? Tell us about some of the strategies that the department has put in place to address the worrying housing backlog in the province, which we touched on in the introduction as well.
Now, look, with in excess of 688,000 people who've expressed their need for state assistance, not for a house, I need to be quite clear, because each one's needs differ in that 688,000. Some want a service site, some want a rental option, some want a social housing option, some want ownership, some wants a BNG. You know, the market is out there. The data tells us what to look for. So what we have done as a department, we have focused purely on catalytic projects, which are impactful. We can scale it up. We use project management approaches, turnkey approach in this instance to see how we can convert, once we have all the planning approvals in place, how we can accelerate the delivery. Now, to that extent, we cater for how we can target projects and programs which will be impactful in terms of delivering 1,000 plus opportunities on one specific site. And which is why part of that commitment of acceleration, and we saw that in my first 100 days in this current term, where we handed over literally 1,800 housing opportunities in that 100 days. We ensured that 1,000 individual housing non-finance linked subsidies was also signed off on by me and the HOD. So these are all the forms that we try to use to accelerate and to address this need. But something that's very crucial, which I've been talking on in every opportunity that I could get, is partnering to ensure that with the private sector, we can truly address effectively over a medium to long term an ever-growing housing backlog, because the funding will never be sufficient to address an ever-growing housing backlog. But if you can scale up your outputs or your delivery with a mixture between what the state delivers or my department and what the private sector delivers, and how we can cross-subsidize or work together in a specific node, in a area, then we can truly see impactful delivery. And with the approval of the Western Cape Infrastructure Implementation Plan 2050, which is a singular pipeline, it touches on not just what national government is doing in our province, or what we are doing in our own province in the 30 municipal areas, but for the first time, it's what the private sector are doing, and how we can converge our planning to a singularity to ensure that we effectively zone in making an impactful change in our people's lives.
Yeah. I know you touched on some of this in the earlier responses, but affordable housing in well-located land closer to economic activities, of course, is a fierce debate. And I'm wondering then what you're considering the projects that you've already outlined, Luoloop and others. What's the department's policy position on that particular issue?
Well, we need to understand, and I'll have to touch on my sister department, because we funded the framework together with him. It's the Department of Local Government, but specific the planning component, where the Western Cape Cabinet approved the inclusionary housing policy framework, which seeks to incentivize planning changes that we can optimally utilize land usage, but also that we can still cater for addressing the needs of the environment in part of our planning process. But again, it's to incentivize behavioral change in planning at local government level, to ensure that developments are impactful, to ensure that affordable housing is more factored into your planning, given that we need to ensure sustainable local government, and to find that perfect balance to ensure that we address the need for affordable housing, but also not forgetting our social responsibility to those who ultimately do want fully state subsidized housing as well, but to do that in a manner that speaks to the living reality of where we are at local government. Human settlements reshapes the past, it shapes the current, and ultimately plans how the future will also look. And this inclusionary housing policy framework doesn't assist local government to actually start focusing together in how they do their planning approvals and so forth. But it's also, we've done housing market research, which does tell us what the need is, and we chose 5 specific municipal areas across the province, excluding the city of Cape Town, to get the normative figure of what affordable housing is, to assess in actual effect over the last 20 years, how has home ownership and land ownership changed. And that has given us a clear direction of where the policy framework needs to guide municipalities to. And again, this speaks to that living reality of well-located land. How do we optimally utilize it? How do we incentivize local government through planning processes and planning approvals to ultimately then follow what the framework sets out? Because at the end of the day, human settlements are more than just houses. It is ensuring that we reshape the past in the present, but also the future, but to ensure that we leave behind a sustainable community, but a sustainable local government, which is what a number of people tend to forget. It's not just about delivering the house on well-located land. It's to ensure it's a sustainable community.
Yeah, no, certainly. And a reminder then to our listeners, our streamers, our viewers, You can engage with us on the number 0829 913 913 if you've got any questions for the Minister. Or, of course, you can touch base and engage with the Minister on his social media platforms as well. Minister, why don't you focus now and have a conversation around the Heritage Western Cape in particular and the impact of regulatory bodies like that, and perhaps using Oudtshoorn as an example, and how I guess, we, the department, has sort of been compelled to first obtain permission and go through bodies like Heritage Western Cape before being able to go ahead with some of these projects.
No, indeed. And I mean, Oudtshoorn was quite in the media recently, so I think it's quite apt that you do ask me about it. Because firstly, we need to understand that as a department, we do recognize the importance and the significance that heritage does play, given the past where our province and our own country comes from.
Yeah.
But what we need to understand is that as part of our own planning processes, specifically where Oudtshoorn is a very good example, we know we do need to obtain the relevant heritage approvals. And in Oudtshoorn's case, that is called the record of decision, which we require from Heritage Western Cape to ensure that once we submit our final plans through to the City of Cape Town, all the baselines of planning has been followed and all the relevant external approvals beyond the City of Cape Town's processes are actually obtained, because the Heritage Western Cape does act in terms of the National Heritage Resources Act. So we need to respect that. Now, in terms of Oudtshoorn, they've actually asked us just to do further assessments. They did not decline our application, which is sadly what was reported erroneously. No, they asked us to do further studies to ensure that, once we get and do a resubmission to them and they do approve our envisioned project for the Oudtshoorn site, it does effectively address the heritage component in our development, which is very, very critical. It's very, very important. But it's also important that we get feedback from a body such as Heritage Western Cape to ensure that once we get the finding approvals, that all communities who will benefit from them are well aware. As much as we are shaping the Western Cape of the future, the heritage and the heritage component of that future is not forgotten, because we must remember where we come from, and that must find embodiment in our projects, more so like in projects like Oudtshoorn.
Yeah. Continuing then on Oudtshoorn, what is its value in terms of the plans the department wants to put forward?
Well, Oudtshoorn is seen as a very strategic piece of land owned by my department and the provincial government, given its yielding capacity, given its proximity to all your transport nodes, given its proximity to economic hubs, given its true future envisioned impact in terms of integrating various communities, but also affording the Western Cape government, through my department, to now ensure that we develop affordable housing in its true form, that we address the affordable housing market in a sustainable manner, but also introduce through Oudtshoorn, and because the site has the capacity to yield so much for us in addressing the past, but also shaping the Western Cape of the future and bringing all the elements which we have learned through the Conradie Park development. Again, we've learned lessons, we can upscale, we can do it better, faster. But I think what's most importantly is our true objective through the Oudtshoorn site, hence its strategic importance for me as the minister as well, is we will address a specific housing demand in the city. The data does showcase that. It will ensure that we create diverse public spaces, but also that we are delivering housing closer to economical nodes, which is a massive need across the city. And we will be addressing the spatial injustices of the past.
Yeah. Now, not all projects run seamlessly. At times, there is resistance, in some of the developments by community leaders and others. How do you go about sort of dealing with that in terms of educating and making the public aware of these developments, and perhaps using Oudtshoorn as another example of it?
Look, again, as a department, we are very transparent. We believe in compliance. So we do follow public participation processes. So we've created a new format in terms of where if you are within the vicinity of the Oudtshoorn site, for instance, interested in affected parties, can register so we know it's actually people that live there. We have learned valuable lessons for people who are not even from a project site, but suddenly they are interested in affected parties. We then, at an opportune time in our project timeline, we will then engage the interested and affected parties that have registered, and we actually listen to them. We give them our planned vision for the site, what we believe is the possible yield, and they give inputs. They can do it in writing. We incorporate that. We then have a follow-up session. Which is also how we seek to engage the community leaders of such communities, because we have seen for too long where valuable land is locked in litigation for too long, costing the taxpayer money. And we have seen land invasions of land which could have actually yielded a lot of opportunity for us. And Oudemolen, we do not want to see the invasion of the land, but we can't also see the underutilization of that land parcel. Which is why, again, we've been engaging, we've been asking interested parties to register. But I think what's very important, as the minister, my department and I are the custodians of all land. And it's to optimally utilize the land which belongs to our people legally, through legal processes, so they can benefit in the future.
Yeah. A reminder then of that WhatsApp number, 0829 913 913. If you have any questions, comments for the minister. Alternatively, you can engage him on the social media channels as well. That's on X, using the handle @MIN or min_T Simmers. That's TSIMMERS, and then use the hashtag, of course, Community Matters. Now, Minister, on a lighter note, your department converted the 67 minutes for Mandela Day last year and turned it into a 67-day project, which is now ultimately a full project for the department. How did that come about?
Well, look, I'm blessed with the department and staff that are truly committed to the values and principles of the Western Cape government. One of those is caring. So the entire 67 minutes, which became 67 days, and we're about to celebrate 365 days of the program afterward, which is something I actually enjoy, is that it's driven by our staff, by each branch. We ask for donations monthly. They freely give. And this is a unique CSI approach by a provincial government, fully supported by its staff, not taxpayers' money being utilized here. It's our staff, and even my ministry are part of that. And because we are the custodian of all the assets of the provincial government, where we every 3 years, we update our computers, we update quite a number of things on our asset register. And we then seek to, and the question was, how can we use this assets instead of it being kept in the storeroom or being taken apart for space, to be quite honest? There are needy schools, there are needy old age homes, there are children's homes which we've even done. How can we repurpose these old assets? And we've gone from schools in Malmesbury to a children's home in Malmesbury to schools across the metro area, and we've done Beaufort West and we've done Mossel Bay, where we've basically taken, in terms of computers, laptops, monitors, we've taken printers, we've taken cupboards, if it's so needed, depending on the list we got from the relevant school or body we are going to. And we've also now found, again, with the donations of our staff, we have really spread out across the basin, and I'm looking forward to what the team and I will be doing this year on Mandela Day for our 67 minutes. Again, for us, it's a celebration of 365 days of what we've been doing. But I think it's also opened all of our eyes that we shouldn't just focus on Mandela Day, which is ultimately what we believe in as a collective, as a Department of Infrastructure. It's how can we care bit by bit every day with limited resources, but showing unlimited love for our fellow citizens.
Yeah, and maintaining that level of consistency. Well, that then brings to an end today's episode of Community Matters, the show brought to you by the Western Cape Department of Infrastructure. A reminder, you can continue engaging with us on the WhatsApp line on 0829 913 913 or on X on the Minister's tag using @MIN under TSIMMER, that's T Simmers, and then use the hashtag, of course, Community Matters. Minister, once again, thank you so much for your time and everything the best until we chat again.
I thank for the opportunity again to talk to your listeners, our viewers, and our streamers. And I do want to wish each and every citizen of the Western Cape, or wherever you are in the world, because streaming does make the world very small, blessed Mandela Day, but let's make it a Mandela month, a Mandela year. Let's show we care. The spirit of Ubuntu really is alive. I've seen that. We all can showcase it, but let's do it together. Let's show that this is a beautiful country, like a beautiful province. Let's reinstill the message of hope, which is ultimately what I think Mandela Day 2025 should focus on. But let's take it beyond that. My department has shown it. Our staff have shown it. If you want to join us as part of this journey, you can contact us. You have our contact details. Become part of a movement for hope, a movement for you.
We hope people action that accordingly. Minister, thank you so much for your time and bye-bye.
Thank you.